Hey YouTube, how is it going? I hope all is well. I see there's a couple of you in here. John, you are slacking. Short Circuit has beat you 2 nights in a row now. I see that you, Matt, are having a tough time. It sounds like when you turn on your amp, does it pop a fuse, I'm guessing? Is that what it does? But as long as you fire it up on a bulb limiter, it does fine. Is that correct? I'm just kind of feeling things out for a few moments. Well, we get a couple more people in here. I got the 2 people I kind of want here anyway, so we can start. I'm always back to work. I've been working non-stop, man. I didn't even take a lunch today. So, yeah, it's been one of those days. Partly why I decided to do this one tonight instead of this weekend, because I just want to make sure this weekend's going to be free in case shit hits the fan. But Matt, if it's popping fuses when you fire it up, but not when it's on the bulb limiter, it's probably because you have too low of a fuse in there. Sometimes people get the fuses mixed up and they'll put 250 milliamp ones in there. Maybe in a spot where they need a 2 amper. For a champ, you probably shouldn't need much bigger than a 1 amp. And I'm guessing it's probably diode, solid state diode for the rectifier. If not, it could just be that the heaters are drawing a lot of current and everything else is just drawing a lot of current, obviously, at first. There is another way around that. If you want, you can get what they call a thermistor, and you literally just put it in line of the, you got the input that comes in from the receptacle. Yeah, right? You do gotta make some videos. That is a fact. You do gotta make some videos. But where the receptacle comes into the amp, you literally take the hot, break it, and then you put a thermistor in between it and what it was gonna connect to. And the thermistor will slow that inrush of current down, so it kind of acts like a bulb limiter at first, and then as soon as this thermistor heats up, it will just do what it's, the amp will just run the way it's supposed to run. I think I actually have a couple here. I can kind of show you what they look like. I think this is what I'm going to put in my 50 watter when I get one. So this is what they look like. They're pretty ugly. This one's a little bit bigger than a quarter, but this one's an SL32. This one's probably a little bit too big for a champ style amp, but this thing here will get pretty dang hot. When I say pretty dang hot, I mean hot enough that you don't want to touch it, but that's how they operate. This gets hot, and then it's what they call an NTC, or negative temperature coefficient thermistor, and that will slow the inrush current and allow you to do what you do. I bought a JJ caps, came in 47. 5Y3. I don't know what a 5Y3 can handle in terms of 5U4 sounds like crap. 5U4 is the lowest, I believe, of them all. The 47 UF, I don't know. There is a limitation to the amount of UF that you can have given the type of rectifier you're using. So it very well could be that 47 is too high. It could also be that the cap has strayed too high up. Is it 20 UF on 5Y3? That makes sense. That will probably be why it's doing that. Now, if you have another cap, you can put it in series with that. So if you have a 47 and a 47, that would cut down to about 20, I don't know, like 23 or 24 or something like that. Roughly 24 UF. Or just spend the $10 and go get another one to stick in there. So that's why the bulb limiter is probably working, is it's dumbing down the voltage enough to allow it to kick off before it pisses off the fuse or whatever. But in either case, as you can see here, we have ourselves a lovely Eastman guitar. I just learned that Eastman is actually a Chinese or Chinesium brand. Eastman kind of makes sense. They're actually upper level, probably made in the Court shop, even though they say that it's made in their shop. Court pretty much makes every guitar in the world now, just so you know. But neat little guitar. I did lower this pickup a little bit just for the S's and the G's, but I want to do I'm going to get evil with this. We have to take all the strings off, so that means the stop bar is going to come off. Now, I normally get pretty evil, but because this is a hollow body, I'm going to be a little more gentle with it. So I'm going to undo the strings a little more normally, and then I'll cut them. Because we don't want to bang anything up. Because this is actually a nice guitar. Believe it or not, I do have care. But today was a hell of a day. Just nothing quite went right for me, which is, you know, just sometimes that's how it is when you're in IT, I guess. Iron is cold. I thought yours was like super duper. I thought yours was like super duper hot, like high voltage or something like that. Or was it something else? Am I misremembering? Do remind me. These might be the original strings here, John. They look like they all got the gold ball ends on them. Just postulating. I checked the action on this thing. I checked a couple other things. This thing is set quite nice, to be honest. So there's not going to take much. It's not going to require much setup, if any at all. This thing is pretty solid as it is. So that is kind of a good news. So this ought to go pretty quick, which is why we're going to start ripping apart another amp tonight. I have an Egnater Tweaker 15. It's not actually my amp. My friend Brian actually owns it. It's been just basically hold on to this while I, you know, do other things type of deal. So I've been holding on to it for a while, but he's not going to mind if I rip it apart and do my own thing. That's weird. This one's got, I think this string's been replaced at some point. No, they're starting to come out with colors. It's just weird that two of them are gold. I guess those are the end strings. They usually use silver on the ends, but I don't know. What do I know? Just some freaking jerk changing strings over here. So there. And I'm sorry I can't get the whole view of the guitar in view, but it's just going to be what it is. So some things you just won't see. No, my transformer's all hot. Soldering irons. Yeah, you got to get yourself, honestly, a really cheap soldering iron that does a pretty good job. It's the one I've had for the last few years, is the Yihua 939D Plus. You can get it on Amazon. I think it's probably right around the $90 mark right now. I think I got it for like 85, 90 bucks or something like that. And it's done pretty good for me, so I don't mind it at all. I'm going to keep my hand on the stop bar because I do not want it to go flying, and I'm not going to cut this string. We are going to get it to come undone all the way around here. There it goes. Again, if you don't mind, thank you. All right, so now we can take the stop bar, and voila. Oh, why, thank you, sir. You don't have to do that, though. I appreciate that, though. It'll definitely help with my trip to Sweden. Pothos, a.k.a. Linus, he's going to be quite stoked, I imagine. So that is coming up here pretty soon. I did talk. I guess I'll kind of clear the air on a couple things while we're here and while I got John here as well. John, I just want you to know, no hard feelings. I am not upset, even though I kind of tease about it a little bit. For those of you who are not in the know of what I'm talking about, John, obviously he's upset because he didn't win my amplifier. That's fine. It's okay. I'd be upset too. But I guess in part for feeling a little bit bad for him, Andy Lederman of YDNA fame hit him up saying, hey, I'll build you a guitar for free, or an amplifier for free. Well, John took an opportunity and said, well, hey, I'll do you one better. I'm going to send over 2 of these amps that I've got, and you can just modify them however you want to modify them. And I was sitting there talking with Andy, and I was kind of like, man, that's a lot of work. John, I don't think you really understand how much work you're really asking him to do by doing 2 of those amps. Just Just saying. But I thought, oh, okay, well, this will be kind of an opportunity for myself to kind of help and do something. And kind of, same line more or less as Andy. So I told Andy, like, hey, if it's okay with you, I'll take one of those off your hands and we can, get these things done twice as fast type of deal. And he was cool with it. But when I presented it last night to the world, John had other ideas. He wants Andy to build both of those amps, whether Andy wants to or not. And Andy will, because he said he would. But and then my job is to get these and ship them across the country. John, I don't know if you realize how lucky you are to have the friends that you have, the amount of love that we have for you. Because I am probably going to end up having to spend a few $100 to get these things over to Andy over there. Just saying. But in either case, don't worry. I'm not upset. I'm just fucking with you, of course. And that's all there is to that. But for anybody else who's maybe been on Andy's channel and wasn't quite hyper aware of what's going on, that was kind of the roundabout way that story went. And I know he does. I don't think he's gonna mind doing both of them. I just thought it would be kind of cool. I'm not really interested in anybody's money or anything like that. If you want the amp, you can get the amp. You just got to talk to me. You know what I mean? So Andy will do it, and he will not do it unless you tell him to. I'm telling you that right now. It would be kind of cool if you got both, because you could kind of see a similar ilk, if you will, of building, like a model anyway, close enough in model type to get an idea of how we do things differently. But I am not trying to pressure you. I'm not trying to get you to do anything you don't want to do. So I will leave that between you and him. But just know that Andy's not upset. I'm not upset. Nobody's mad at anybody. I just wanted to make that clear. So on that, let's dust off something here. Sorry. There we go. See, the freaking headstock's nice and clean. The neck over here is a little crusty. So let's get out this guy here. This is an ebony fretboard. I don't know if it's a veneer. I have another guitar that has an ebony fretboard on it, and as best as I can tell, it is a veneer. But it may not be. It has wood on the amp or the guitar I have. It's a wood binding on the side, which is really pretty. It's a neat guitar, but I know that the top is a veneer, so I'm not willing to bet that they're using a full thickness chunk of ebony for the neck myself. I wouldn't if I were trying to cut corners like that. Because ebony is expensive. Ask me how I know. Because I've bought some before to do my own kind of thing. The screen on the 6v6, it's changing. It changes so much. So yeah, the screen will change depending on how hot you are running the amp. So if you measure it while at idle and not doing anything, it will do one thing, and then as soon as, of course, you run up the gain, it should sag a little bit, but it should not sag more than about 30 to 40 volts. If it's sagging more than 50 volts, you probably need to get more control over it. And by more control, I mean you need, it would be a smaller dropping resistor. I don't know how close your screens are, but you should have two resistors, one for the screen node itself, and one directly at the grid on the amp, or on the tube itself, excuse me. And I would definitely use at least a 1K directly on the grid. But you can go smaller if need be, but at least a 1K and up to 2K. Okay, the sound. Oh, okay. Well, so that's just it. It shouldn't have any compression because the amp is Class A, right? Is it a real champ? It's Class A, which means it should not compress at all. which means that the screen is definitely running around. And that means you need to get the screen under control, because the screen is what will cause it to have that compression sound, or feel, I guess. So you need to double check on that. You can measure it basically at full volume. If you have a load, it helps so you don't piss off the neighbors and stuff. But basically you plug it into something, turn it all the way up, and measure the screen node while you pluck the string really hard. Again, while the amp is at full blast. So again, I'm playing. So you don't really need to go too negative. I know that they like to tease a little bit about, not tease, but you know, they say that you should have like X amount of voltage difference, ideally. But most of those idealies are for like hi-fi. In the guitar amp world, to get the most out of the wattage that you have and to make it act like you expect a guitar to act in a guitar amp, you really kind of just need it near the same voltage as your plates are at. So if you have, say, 420 volts on your plate, I like to have at least a 5-volt drop. So you're shooting for, you know, 415 volts in that case, but no more than a 35-volt drop. Any more than 35 volts, and it really starts to get a little too controlled. There you will start to notice some compression and stuff like that. Again, because as soon as you start turning up the guitar amp, the screen node will sag a little bit, and it will pull down the tube with it. So I love this. I love this guitar. It's a beautiful guitar. Cap from screen to cathode. You can do that. I would not. I would keep it simple. If the circuit is like it's supposed to be, and I know that yours was like a different variant. There was like a high voltage and a low voltage variant or something of that amp. I don't know all the specifics about that particular one, but I wouldn't get too tricky with it. Now, the node itself, that 47 UF that you have, would probably be ideal. I don't know, what size cap do you have for your screen node? If you don't mind, let me know. Because if you have a 22 UF or a 16 UF or something like that, what you can do is trade those over, excuse me. So something most people don't know is that once you get past the first node, you can put any size cap that you want. It's the only node that's of any importance in a guitar amp in terms of limitation on value is the first node, or the A node, if you will. And by that, I mean, like if you have a tube rectifier and it's limited to, say, 20 UF, well, that means you can only put up to a 20 UF there on that particular node. Now, the following node that's after a dropping resistor, you can go up to 100 UF. You can put up as high as you want. So you could swap those around. But it alarmed me when it was positive. Yeah, you definitely don't want the screen to be hotter than the plates of your power tubes. That is a fact. That will be a little, that will cause problems. I'm just saying that from like 99% of guitar amps, the screen will be 5 to 35 volts lower on average. Not always, but on average. I'm using this oil to clean up these pickups because these things are freaking ugly. They got some schmoo on them. All right. Yeah, look at that. That is freaking dirty. She a dirty bitch. Dirty bat. All right, we're going to let that soak for a little bit. Let me get my spray. Now, let's use a different rag here. Clean up the schmoo. Oh, yeah, those cleaned up quite nice, actually. A couple little scratches there. Looks like some staining or something like that from whatever the goo was that was on them, but it's all good. Let's see here. 47, 20, 20. Swap them around. Just take the 20 that's on your screen node and put it where your current A node is at, and then put the 47 on your screen node. I'll bet you'll really like that. So the size of the cap at the screen node, believe it or not, does help manage it a little bit more. It'll stiffen it up, make it less prone to moving, which in your case would not be a bad thing. Just saying. So that's what I would do if I didn't want to spend any more money. Of course, that is totally up to you. Let's get some of this stuff here. So I am going to give the give everything kind of a little there we go. Let's get out of there. I'm almost out of this stuff. It's almost gone. I got to get some more. Doo-doo-doo. All right. I'm going to start with these guys here. Hopes that it'll clean up whatever that other shmoo is. And it looks like it might, actually. Let's find out. Ooh. It's better. It is better. You better, you better, you bet. Yeah, no, it's all good, dude. I'll be here for a little bit. You will definitely want to stop back by in a little bit, though, because I am going to rip apart an amp. We're also going to talk a little bit of, obviously we've been talking about amps anyway, but we will talk some more about all kinds of fun stuff. So we'll see you in a bit. Thank you for popping in. Does that make sense there, though, short, Matt? I hope that does, because, I mean, that's honestly what I would do in your case. Knowing that you're popping fuses and or having problems starting up with the rectifier that you want to use. So, yeah, no worries, man. That's what we're here for. This channel is all about the learnings. Oh, yeah, that is so much better. I probably should have given you a close-up of a before and after kind of deal, but these had like all kinds of like weird little shmoo marks all on them earlier. Not anymore. I apologize. I'm still trying to kind of walk and chew bubblegum at the same time here, and I'm still trying to maintain conversation while actively doing work. If you've never tried it before, it's not very easy. I've seen some people that literally stop doing whatever the work that was that they were doing while they yip yap away. I try to not be that guy. I like being active all the time. My wife, I think, is probably a little enamored by the fact that I can work all day, and then as soon as I walk in the door, I'm just go out here doing more stuff. Some of it has to do with just me being me. I hate sitting on my loins. Like Saturday mornings, I don't sleep in. And if I do, it's usually not much past like a couple hours normal. When I normally wake up, that is. I try to be active always. I am going to have to go over this with some 2000. I am seeing some pitting that this thing is not going to get out, but I will do this first, and then we'll go back and touch it up with the grit. This one is definitely a much cleaner amp than that, or guitar, than that other one, though. I guess since we were talking about screens, we can continue on a little bit more about that. I was doing a little more research on screens lately, just because they are important, and I had a guitar amp of my own design, where I was getting a lot of drag on the screen node. It was just sagging down way too much. And there was no apparent reason why, other than I was using too large of a resistor. Because I'm using the choke, I was using both a choke and a dropping resistor, which is probably more than it needs. The choke itself is a reactive load, so it will reactively dumb down the screen node. And I don't think your amp has a choke in it. Driving. Yeah, right. Fixate. I'm generally pretty good about maintaining focus in two places at the same time, but not always. Not always. I have days. Days where things don't go my way. Today was one of those days. Freaking somebody was testing me. But let's see here. Let's put that there for a moment. Let's get some sandy paper. Where did I put that sandy paper at? I threw it somewhere. Here it is. That's not the one I want. This is the one I want. So yeah, the screen was moving too much for me, and it turned out I was using too large of a resistor after the after my choke. Generally, when you have a choke, you don't put another resistor after it, or you don't have to anyway. Most people won't, but I did, and because I had both, it was causing the screen to drop too much, and that causes a problem. So yeah. So I just dropped my resistor to a lower value and everybody's happy. The screens are sitting a little bit closer to the plates now as a result of that, but that would be as expected. But after doing that, it really changed the attitude of the amp, because you don't want to have more than about a 50 volt drop from your plates. After you get that low, it starts becoming things start getting a little weird. That's all. And it's generally because most people don't put it as much filtering as they probably could in some of these amps, especially these older amps. Oh, the 1K with. It's in series with 1K now. Before, ooh, well, there you have it. The 1K is too big, I can tell you right now. You're going to want to go to probably, you can still keep it there, but 1K is going to be too big. My guess is that you're going to want, make sure again that you have at least a 1K on the grid of the tube itself. That's okay. But you may not need another one prior to that, to be honest, because of that. But if you're going to put one in there, go with like a, start with a 500 ohm, see how it acts. And if it is a little too close in voltage to your plates, then you can go up to like an 800 ohm or a 600 ohm or something like that. As long as you got a 5 volt difference or even a few volts, but 5 volts is good enough. That's it. And then check it again at volume on that node. If it drops more than 50 volts, try getting rid of it altogether. Change the resistor at the screen. It changes things. The screen at the resistor will in fact change things. Yes, that is a fact. It will. But that's expected too. Now, how it will change things positively or negatively, what you could do is go old school, and instead of putting a 1K screen grid resistor, what tubes are you? It's got to be like a 6v6, right? I'm assuming it's a 6v6. You could probably get away with a 470 ohm, and that will help in keeping it from changing things too much. But realistically, you should use a 1K. And again, when you're measuring the node can be the same voltage. You're actually looking for the voltage that's sitting directly on the screen. So you only need 5 volts sitting on the screen, different from the plate. Like literally on the screen. So that does, some people get that confused. I don't know if how you measured your voltage difference or not, but just saying. All right, we're almost getting there. These things are cleaning up pretty good here, so. And I wonder if I can get this one in there. Yeah, there we go. And one more. Yeah, that one's not gonna work. Just gotta be careful. Ta-da! All right, we're gonna call it right there. I think that's gonna be just quite dandy. 10K at the screen is my, whoa, way too big. It defies logic. I can tell you right now, 10K is not going to work. You might like how it sounds or how it feels and all that jazz, but 10K is way too much. The reason it's way too much is because it's literally going to limit the current. That's why you're getting such a big. That's why you get such a vast difference in the screen grid or in the screen. I would, I mean, I guess your voltage is a little bit different, but I would try to stick to stock at first and not wallow too far from there. I guess that's where personal taste kind of comes in with a lot of this stuff. So I'm not going to tell you it's wrong, I guess, but 10K, I can tell you right now, is way too huge. Anything more than like 2K is generally too much. Generally. Not always, but generally. Gosh, dang, this is a really nice fretboard. I don't like how much shmoo is sitting in there still, but... Or is that shmoo? What is it? Maybe it could be glue. I don't want to... Look how dirty that was, though. That's the dirt that came off, by the way. Let me see if I can get the shmoo out of there. I don't know that that's going to happen. No, it's not really helping. Let's get me a scrape device, not a razor blade. Not looking for a razor blade. Where art thou? Mr. Picky, you come to me. So the reason I like using picks is because when they're used, they get kind of pointy at the end. And it's kind of like a little scraper, if you will. Does not appear to be moving anything. Cannot tell for sure, but... maybe a little bit of dirt's coming off. It's not too bad. It's pretty clean. What I'm probably going to do, since I didn't mar up the fretboard too much, there's a couple spots that are still schmooed up. That's why you typically let this stuff soak for a while to eat into whatever the goo is that's sitting on there. All the grease and skin oils and fun stuff like that. But yeah. One of my favorite guitars ever is the new Epi 3.4. Ooh, yeah. I like Epiphone's killing it lately, to be honest. How are you doing, Offset? Good to see you. Thank you for coming over. I know that Andy's probably a little more entertaining to watch, but we kind of stick to topic a little more over here, perhaps. Maybe. Less trolls, that's for sure. Without all the trolls, it definitely helps maintain focus. I haven't been inundated yet with that kind of BS, thankfully. I've had a couple people come in and try it, but they just didn't get enough attention. They seem to thrive on that attention and all. All right, let's wipe this down and try it one more time, see what we got here. A little bit better. There's still a couple spots here and there I don't like. Ew. Yeah, it's just gruesome down there. On my current setup, it does that thing. That's the cool thing. I mean, if it does that thing, then that's kind of the important part. Although, I'm going to tell you right now, to resolve all your problems, just swap those caps around. At the very least, if you don't change anything else, swap those caps around. Put the 20 UF that you have at your screen node and move it to your primary, and then put the 47 UF where your current 20 UF is at, and I think you'll be pleasantly surprised. I know that you were saying your iron isn't very hot, but just get any kind of a Yihua. I mean, Harbor Freight even has a model that's pretty good, to be honest. It's about $100 for the one at Harbor Freight, but It's honestly pretty good. It's worth checking out at least anyway. That is honestly quite nice right now. Damn it, John. I don't think I've ever had to spend this much time cleaning a fretboard. And I know it's not your grime. We'll blame it on Yuki. It's all Yuki's fault. I don't know what he was doing, but he was letting somebody from the frat party come over and play their stuff or something. And they didn't clean up after they were done. All right, I think that's good. We're going to call that good. All right, let's move that there. Okay, now let's clean up the guitar itself. Create a little room there. This part I want to be gentle with. I want to clean it up, but I don't want to move anything, and I certainly don't want to drop it. So we're going to be very careful to not drop that. Just for hum. Plus fixed grounds. Oh, yeah. I don't know if you watched my grounding video at all. I do have a video that talks about that a little bit. It is pretty importante. Actually, I'd say very muy importante. I don't like doing it the way Fender did, and I don't like spreading the grounds out around the amplifier. I kind of like doing it's not really like a star, but it's kind of like the cascaded thing. But you do want to keep there's a couple nodes you got to keep separate from everything else. The one node that you must separate from everything else is the safety ground that comes in from your power cord. That must be on its own thing, and it must be within a very short distance of your input for your power. So your power receptacle cord that comes in. You want that grounded very near to where the power comes in, and you want it to be its only connection. Nothing else should share that connection. That is for safety and for having a very clear and defined exit point for the amp. And the way I like to think about it, and while it might be partly wrong, it's not a bad way to think about it, is that you want to think of all your different paths to that point. So when I say to that point, you just have to imagine that safety ground that you put near the receptacle, the power receptacle, is the point that everything's trying to get out of the amp to. And if you can imagine there's two trains of thoughts on this, and I haven't had any problems doing it my way, but train of thought my way is that the ground at the input is the furthest away from your safety, and then everything subsequently gets closer and closer in tangent. So that any other ground points that you have for any other parts in the amp, if you keep things pretty concentric or whatever you want to call it, so it flows in one direction, it doesn't really matter how many ground points you use, but so long as that this point here that's for the input and this point here aren't crissy-crossed. You don't want the input, if you're going to ground it at the input, closer than some other node that's over here to your exit point in the amp. And you just have to try to keep that mindset in there, is that you're trying to think of everything and how it will flow out of the amp. And you want your shortest distance to be the noisiest thing. Does that make sense? So the noisiest parts in the amp, you want to have closest or closer to the exit going out. Does that make sense? And then you want the stuff that you want to be quiet, a la your input. You don't want any noise getting in on your input. You want that stuff to be furthest away from that point. Doing so that way, I have never had any problems with grounding, be it right or be it wrong. Again, there's all kinds of different ways you can do it, but that I have found to just be a sane way that works every time for me. So It is a beautiful guitar. I love this thing. It's a beautiful guitar. And I think we're at a point now where I can start to clean up a little bit and make it so I can use my nicer rags. Get these out of the way here. All right, let's spray some stiff. I'm not a fan of this stuff. It's reasonable at cleaning stuff up, but it says polish on the bottle. It's not a polish. It doesn't do what that other stuff I was talking about yesterday does. It just makes things clean. It doesn't really like do what I call like polishing, I guess, if you will. That is my feeling of it. Be that what it may. I'm gonna have to readjust that now because I furked it up. As well as that one. Whatever, we'll come back to that anyway. It's all good. It's not gonna be so far off. We're gonna die. We're not gonna die. Oh yeah, this thing's gonna clean up beautifully. So I want to get one of this style of guitar really bad. I've just never had one. And every time I play one, I've always just been like enamored by it. I don't think I'd ever play one live, but I just like how they feel. I learned how to play on an acoustic, and it just has that thing that only an acoustic guitar can do. And the cool thing about acoustic guitars is that if you can play them well, you can probably play electric guitar quite well too. And I like playing acoustically. I had a friend that once told me, I used to play a lot of 12-string guitar. I had a 12-string. Well, I have a 12-string, but I used to play it all the time. And he said the one thing he appreciated about my playing with that particular guitar was that I played it as a 12-string should be played. So, I don't know. I like the jingliness of them. It's hard to beat the sound of a nice acoustic guitar. And I've picked up a few good ones in my day. I've been spoiled. One I have never been able to find again, and I probably should have bought it then. I believe it was a Taylor. It was not a Martin, but I'm pretty sure it was a Taylor. But it was like the 12th fret was literally at the heel. It was like a slightly shorter scale. It was really fun to play. It had just this huge, bold sound to it. One of the best guitars I've ever picked up. But at the time, it was like $4,000 something. And you got to imagine this is like 20 years ago. So you can only imagine what that would probably be worth now. But yeah, I've never seen another one since like it. It just kind of bums me out. I can't remember what they call them. I don't know if it's like the parlor scale or something like that. It's like slightly shorter scale though, I can tell you that. Very amazing guitar. But if you can play an acoustic nice, playing anything electric ought to be a breeze. And since this is basically both an electric and an acoustic, you know. Now, I don't really want to flip this thing over, but I'm going to try to get the back nice and clean. But I'm going to do it while it's standing up. I'm sorry, I know this is like just death to watch. It's not very entertaining whatsoever. You should have bought that exact guitar. You know, this is as best as I can tell, this is a single piece back and a single piece front. I was looking at it a little bit closer the other day, or this afternoon, I should say, and I cannot determine a seam at all, excuse me. And I am relatively certain that it is a single piece back and front. Now, that in and of itself is pretty rare. To get a single piece anything is very freaking rare. So that makes it kind of worth its weight in gold, I feel. It only sells for about $1,400 these things, or this particular model anyway. So they're not too expensive. They're not out of range expensive, but yeah, it's roughly a $1,200-$1,300 guitar thereabouts. I don't know what it would go for on the used market. I didn't actually look. I would expect to pay between, I don't know, in this one's condition, I mean, you should be able to get at least $800 for it, I think. Maybe $600. The market's kind of going a little wackadoodle these days. It's just, right now is not a good time to be selling guitars, I don't think. Pedals are dead too, by the way. I don't know if you knew this or not, but Jonathan Nathan Cordy was talking about it. I can't remember his name, the guy from Know Your Gear. He was talking about it too the other day. How the pedal market is dying, and they were blaming it on what's those freaking thing, the modelers. I don't necessarily believe that, to be honest. I don't know. A good pedal is a good pedal, and a modeler is just a copy. And I don't like copies. Copies just don't do it for me. So, bah. Anyway. All right, so this went that way. And we'll just set it like that for now. All right, we're at the fun part. It's time to put some strings on this mofo. What do you think about that? I love my QB3. Yeah. Oh my gosh, yeah. I know that isn't it the 335? It's just got kind of like I can't remember. There's a bunch of switches and knobs, or is that a different version I'm thinking of, like the Lucille version or something? I can't recall. I don't know. I'm not a aficionado when it comes to this style of guitar. I just want to get one really bad. That's all. All right, let's go. Yeah. All right. I'm gonna put the center strings in first, methinks. I'm gonna do it just a little bit different because I want something to hold the stop bar on for us. So, and then I go and almost drop it. Damn. Freaking special sauce over here. Okay. So here's what I'm going to do. So I don't like banging anything up. We're going to put that there like that. And I think, yes, that'll hold it there more or less while I get one of these things at least started. And I think what I'll do is I'll start with this guy. So the way I normally would do this, and you can't see it, I'll show you once I get things kind of locked down over here. So just, yeah, just have to bear with me. I apologize. So there's that. So I go over the top of the string the first time around, and then I go underneath the string the remainder of the way. So, and I'll show you what I'm talking about in a moment, but I got probably too many wraps on this one, though. I don't like trying to go around 5 times. Like, if I can get it to go around like once or twice, it's generally pretty good. But I wanted to make sure that this stop bar isn't going to go flying anywhere. All right, there we go. Stop bar. It's being a little toit over there. There it is. I don't know why that one's so toit. Toit like a toiga. It's not binding on anything, as best I can tell. So, that's good. That's good. All right, stop bar in. Let me finish tightening up this a little bit. A nice little ring to her. Let's go ahead and cut that string off there. And I also like cutting them tight to the peg. And let's get this one going here. And once I get this one on, we'll try to make it so you can see what the hell I'm talking about here. I can possibly show you what I'm talking about up close. Maybe. Freaking turd. And the only thing I dislike about these styles of guitars is the kickback on the the angle of the neck. I know why they do that, but I just don't like it. That's a me thing. That's why I'm not a big fan of Gibsons. All right, so what I've done, and I'll try to explain it or show you. Maybe you can see it, maybe you can't. Oh, if you'd focus, you fack. All right. So see how the thing is pinched in between the two wires there? I've already cut it, but you can see right in there, if I can get it in the view. My apologies. See right there, that's where the string is coming out. So I go over the top of it the first time around, and then I go underneath the next time around. And when you're done, you get this nice tight thing. And it'll be really hard to tell on this one, but you can kind of see on that one too, that I went over the top, and it's just not going to focus. But I went over the top, and then I went underneath it. And what that does is, you can imagine the wires in between, so it pinches it. And then you cut it, and when you cut it, you're cutting it on this side of the thing, so it's still pinched. I find that they just don't move. And they just don't move. So I like them that way. That's a me thing, though. You can do it however the hell you want. And if you wouldn't mind going on in there, please. And boop. There we go. All nice and gentle like. All right, let's get this guy going. So on the other end, what you can't see me doing is when I pull it off, you generally only need to go about half the distance, but with these guitars, it's probably good to go at least the half and then maybe 3/4 of the distance. You don't have to pinch it off all the way at the next one, but more or less what I do is I pick a point that's out here, let's say, and then I'll drop it back into it, and then I'll start churning the tuning peg. That's how I do it. Setting up a guitar right and making y'all horny. Oh, so horny. A well set up guitar, man, is a dream. When you get it just right, it's so nice. And I try to be gentle with other people's guitar. I'm pretty brutal with my own. I don't mind having nicks, scratches, dings, and stuff like that. Although my guitars are in all pretty good condition and stuff. It's just the scratches tell a story, you know what I mean? And I don't mind having that story. So that is a me thing, though. When it comes to other people's stuff, I obviously treat it much better, or at least attempt to. If I get an absolute pile of shit or something, maybe I'm a little less careful, but you know. Ah, you dirty little turd. Get up there. Now on the top two strings, I don't worry about getting all the way around the tuning peg like 2 or 3 times. So you really only need it to go around once, if that. And this one's not going to go all the way around. And because they are, they are the way that they are, they don't slip. So there you have that. So there's that. I'm going to punch it in the hole there. And off to the races. And on the E string, the low E, I don't often go over the top. You can just go underneath the whole way. Again, it's just because you don't need to worry about it slipping. Where is it going to go? It never goes anywhere. The low E, that is. Dun, 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 dun. pretty close on that one. All right, let me cut this real quick, like, very carefully. I don't want to cut the wrong thing there. Bink. All right, 2 to go. Let's get on it. John, where are you at? 3 wraps under the pinch point. No, I don't like doing three wraps. That's just too many times around. Honest to God, like if on these last 2 strings, I don't mind getting 3, or 2. 2 is enough, but 3 is okay. On the larger strings, like everything from the G down or G up, I guess however you want to talk it. Those ones, if you got anything more than a wrap, you're good. That's all it takes. So any more than that, you're just beating up on things to beat up on things. That turns into a pain in the ass to get the damn things off later. So I don't know. That's been my experience of the tens of thousands of strings of sets I've ever done. It does not require much. And then I like doing the over-under thing because it just looks clean, as I've mentioned. And I don't have a problem with slipping. So, there. So right there was 2 times around. And I might get a 3rd time around here. We'll see. It looks like I might not quite get 3 times around. It's about 2.5. Ish. I'm guessing. I don't actually know. I don't actually have perfect pitch, but I can generally get it pretty dang close. Close enough sometimes. Sometimes I spot the hell on. It sometimes also helps too if you're listening to music while you're doing this. I like listening to music generally when I do this, but YouTube being the way it is these days, can't really play any freaking music in the background anymore. Not without dealing with someone else trying to steal your content or something. So, yeah, is what it is. Okay, let's get this guy over there. Thank you again, all you guys, for hanging out with me. I appreciate that. I know this isn't the most exciting content on the planet. All right, let's see how close I was. Tuning thing is on. Ooh. I was about a half a step off. I was holding at a D sharp there. Not even a half step. That is a D. I'll show you. It was a D. It's just not quite a D. There's the D. It's actually a little tight on the G. No, I was a little low. All right, we'll let those strings settle in for a second there. It is time to have a sippy of my drinky. And I usually wait to cut the 2 high strings until after it's settled. So those ones I do wait. All the rest of them, you can just kill them. You know, just cut them away. I've never had them slip on me. Not bad enough that I got to worry about it anyway. So, yay. All right. So I need to get something so I can put my knee up. I don't have any straps. I don't want to get my picks confused either. We're not playing with those guys. All right, let's get this thing kind of dialed in here a little bit more. So another thing I will do to stretch the strings in, some people do it, others don't, and I just give them a quick little snap. So you just kind of give them a sharp tug. You're not like trying to pull it off the guitar, but you know what I mean, just kind of a good little tug. And they'll generally drop another half step or so. I can tell you right now, I got to go up. Because I moved those adjusters too much when I was doing this. So let's go ahead and do that then. I want a particular type of tool. Are you too big? You are just right. So let's go to that, see what that gives us. It might be a little low still. That might be higher than it needs to be. It's borderline. All right, let's go up just a skosh more. So I usually just go like quarter turns. I kind of like that right there. It's pretty freaking low. I'm going to give it just a little bit more. Just a skosh more. We'll go a quarter turn there. Ooh. That might be a little on the high side, but it looks to be within spec. I'm going to roll with it right there. We'll come back to that. Let's see how the high side feels. And I feel like the high side is probably a little too high. All right, I'm going to drop the high side ever so slightly. So, in we go. Quarter turn. See how we feel about that. I like it. Close enough for me. All right. Very nice. I like it. There we are. Yay! I'll take the tuner thing off for a second here. Let's cut these other strings. They seem to be holding steady on us here. And click. This one I'm going to have to back off to get to it. There we go. Now I can get to it to cut it and clip. And ta-da! All right, let's make some noise out of this thing. Make sure all that fun stuff's working. I know I checked it yesterday. It says here, revisit my 34K input resistor. Where did I put my pickup or my peak? There it is. Your 34K, as opposed to, I don't mind the lower ones. 34K is nice. Damn, these pickups are hot. These are some hot pickups. I like how it's got the grit just built into it. But the bridge is hot. So what we're listening to here amp-wise is the amp I'm actually going to be tearing apart here in a little bit. I'm not a fan of it, by the way. I'm just... That's the clean, this is the hot. It gets a woolly mess in the hot. Let's put the bright and tight on. And that's all the gain it's got, and it's just... This is the British mode. I kind of prefer the clean channel myself. The Brit mode's always been a little honky, and this is USA mode. As you can tell, not very fun. That's bright and tight back on, or deep on and normal, excuse me. So AC mode is the fun mode in this thing. Just saying, it's the Egnater Tweaker 15. Sorry, there's nothing to see here. Yeah. It's a noisy amp too. I mean, that's obviously the volume's down pretty low right there, but it's always been kind of a noisy amp. Love this guitar. It's fun to play. It is, I think, set to go right now. So let me get my fingerprints and all the other goober schnot off of the guitar. And we'll start getting ready to go into the next segment here. Yay! We'll come back and tune this thing a little bit later. It's obviously gonna change. I'm not a fan of the bridge pickup in this. The neck is okay. The neck kind of sounds like what you'd expect a hollow body to sound like, but the bridge just is a little hot. A little hot for this style of guitar, I think. I didn't really do any like middle or anything like that, but this amp really doesn't help anything either. The Egnater Tweaker 15 is just one of those, I don't know, I bought it, 15, 20 years ago or whatever the heck it was. And it just, at the time, it was pretty cool. I mean, there wasn't anything else like it, really. Jet City was just kind of coming out. So, there we have it. Put this guy away here real quick. Get the case to open. There we go. There it is. Oh, pretty like. We'll come back to that in a little bit after I clean up my mess. It's a real show now. Come on. That's what we were waiting for. That's what we needed the whole time. Sweet guitar. Thank you. It's not mine, though. It's actually Andy's at this point. Andy Lederman. So if you weren't aware, John, a.k.a. Team YDNA, sent some amplifiers to Andy to do some work on. And Andy, in return for his efforts, will get to acquire these guitars that I've been working on the last couple days. So, sorry, I'm moving around. I'm cleaning stuff up, putting stuff away here. It's kind of like this little microphone thing I got going on. I switched out. I'm testing it so that way I can see how it's going to work when I do some of my live stuff later on for the next couple builds I got coming up. And to also see how it's going to work for my trip to Sweden. So I am going to Sweden to, for those of you who missed it yesterday, hand deliver the giveaway amp. So that is that. Now, here we are. Boop. Right there. Yeah, looks good to me. Okay, sippy time. All right, let's kind of go through some of your things here. I know I missed a couple things. So, 34K, I think the 34K you'll like. In that guitar, in the Champ, because it's not quite as high gain, you can probably get away with a 10K, to be honest. But as long as the radio doesn't come in through the input when the amp is turned all the way up, you're fine. You can go as low as you want in value. 68K will darken it up a little bit, but I kind of like it to have a little more ting on the top. And doing it at the input is a good place to do that. And being too drunk to text is not a bad thing. Tonight we're changing it up. We're going with the Dr. Pepper tonight. But oh yeah. Oh, you're back. I just put it away now, but turned out beautiful. Thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah, no, they earned it for sure. Hey, Bindi, nice to see you. And then of course, John, you're back now. Just literally moments after I put the guitar away. I did a little sound sample of it, so you can tune back a little bit if you want and check that out. But we are moving on to the next segment of things. So I have decided, for a couple different reasons, you kind of just heard a little bit. I don't know what you actually could hear of it, but the Egnater Tweaker 15 that I have, it's not a horrible amp, but it's nothing like my stuff. It's too compressed, and that's the settings I had it. Well, aside from the master volume, it's a little too compressed. It just finally did that thing. Oh, thank you. I appreciate that. I'm glad to help you get you where you want to go with it. So I picked this up a while ago. And at the time, as I mentioned, it was pretty cool. The hot channel is a hot mess. Like, it's just too woolly. Oh, thank you, my man. I appreciate that. It's just too woolly, and it's really not usable. I never had any fun with the hot channel, so I've always kept it on the clean channel, and I usually run it right around noon to right in that range there, and then I would push the front end with, like a clean boost or something like that. You send him things in the mail. Somebody needs to get him. Yeah, right. You got to send them you got to send them things in the. You hyped yesterday's video. Did you? I don't know if you did. I seen you poking at me again. I saw that little short that you did, punk. Yeah, and I will change the rules because I make the rules. So the Brit channel has always been really honky. I don't like the Brit channel at all. It doesn't matter what speaker I plug into, what guitar I plug into it. It's always just been too honky. The AC is actually the nominal. So the AC switch position in this amp is nothing, like none of the altering things to make it do the USA or Brit thing. In order to do that, you switch it up for USA mode and it cuts out a bunch of bass and adds some highs, and then you put it into Brit mode and I think it just adds a bunch of... oh, okay. Nice. The hype feature. I haven't checked back on that video to see how well it's done. The last time I saw it was at like 170 views or something like that, which is not bad. It's doing better than this one. This one's only got 40 views at this point, but again, we're not very, very interesting over here, so I'm just some asshole that chit-chats. But this is a 6v6 amp that is meant to run like pretty much anything you can throw at it. Apparently, Bruce Egnater has said himself openly that you should probably not put any EL34s in there. You couldn't fit them if you wanted to anyway. And I think he did that intentionally because there's barely enough room for these pair of, 6v6s that are in there. So let's start ripping this thing apart so we can take a shot at the guts and see what our wonderful amplifier is all about. And I'm debating how I want to destroy this thing. I'm not going to destroy it physically. I might sell the guts or something, or maybe do a giveaway of the guts to someone else who might want it. This is not the version that was having a bunch of issues. So there was a version 1, I think, that was prone to a series of different issues. This is not that particular one. Doesn't look like I can take the front off yet. I don't need to take anything off there, so I think we are set. And it looks like we'll be okay. Looks like this thing's been dropped or something once before. I definitely didn't do it. It wasn't me. But I did a few gigs once upon a time with this thing, and it was pretty much, you couldn't run it clean. It does have a lot of clean room, but if you do nothing else to an amp, give it an external speaker out. Yes, that is true, actually. Very true. A lot of these 5-watt amps actually sound freaking amazeballs in... barely freaking in there. If you put them... what's the word I'm looking for? If you take like a 5-watt amp and you think it sounds like a radio or a toy or something, plug it into a 4x12, and I think you'll be pleasantly surprised at how ballsy some of these amps actually are. Take your solid state freaking amp du jour that you hate, that you think sounds like Dooku through its stock speaker, run it into a nice 4x12, and yeah, you'll be pleasantly surprised that it's not as nearly as bad as you thought it was. Here we go. Gimme. Goo. All right. Haha. So you can see they did put some shielding in there at the very least. It's some really thin, like aluminum something or other. It's a little dusty in there. Yeah, so it's not a horrible job on this, but it's a nice little cabinet, I guess, for now. I am in debates on whether or not I'm going to try to keep these transformers or not. I don't know for sure if that's what I'm going to do. And I'm also in debates on whether or not I should measure the voltage before I take it apart. But let's do a couple things. Let's get a dirty rag and let's wipe this thing off. For a 15-watt transformer, it's not very big. And let me show you what I mean. Let me find my 15-watt, 18-watt transformer. Where the hell did it go? It's over here somewhere. It's going to be buried. There it is. I see you. Come to daddy. Oh, shit, get over here. Oh, hey, I've been looking for that. You come with me. All right. Here's an 18-watt transformer. So this is 3 watts more. So it's about the same basic size, but you can see that this one is just ever so slightly. Overall, it's just a little bit bigger. That's pretty small for a 15-watt. But it's sizable enough. I'm sure it's a solid 15-watt. Now, the only thing that's a downer is I could not find any data on what this is in terms of its primary impedance. I could not find out anything about that, which is unfortunate because it would sure make the rest of my life a little bit easier. Yeah, right? The meth using community. What are you saying? I was an early adopter to it. I kind of, when I saw the little diminutive thing come out, I was just like, ooh, I think this is going to be a thing. And lo and behold, here we are 20 years later, and it is still a thing. Never really kind of went away. Like, once the night train came out from Vox, that was kind of it. It is a steel chassis, I'll give him that. And Mr. Andreessen, I'll have to talk to you in a bit, I'm sorry. So, this is what about $350, $400 will get you. At the time, anyway. A bunch of circuit boards and a bunch of PCB mounted stuff. Looks like they might even have some thermistors in there. I don't know, but to me it looks like that board is warped. I'm trying to take a quick gander here. They did a good job at least of zip tying everything together, but I just don't like all the jumpers and stuff. I did do a couple things in here at one point in time. I did the de-wooling of it. When I first got it, it was pretty dark, and it's still pretty dark even as it is. So there's a couple little, let's see if I can get it in the shot for you. This little guy right there, I actually cut and just took it out of circuit. There's a couple of them that I did. This one here I did as well. That guy right there has also been taken out. Now, if you didn't know, this little guy right there is a transistor. That is actually going in from, I should say the input goes through a transistor first. There's only 2 gain stages in this thing. It goes into that transistor, and then it goes into one half of this 12AX7, and then it goes into the other half of the 12AX7. That is it. And I don't know if that's shmoo coming out or what, but there's something on that cap. And I don't know what the hell it is. But, so yeah, there's only 2 stages of gain on this. I like isolated jacks, always. Isolated jacks. You should never ground your input with the jack. Preferably use isolated jacks, and if you're going to ground at the input of the amp like they suggest you do it with a dedicated lug right into the chassis. So do not use the jack as a grounding point, which is why you shouldn't really use, the grounded jacks anyway for any other part of the amp, because that ground does kind of float around in there. You don't want that as a reference point. Just saying. So let's see here. It looks like they soldered on this power switch. It has power settings for 230 volt, 117 volt, and 100 volt. So it does come with a power switch. I don't know if I want to look into that more or not. It kind of looks like I'll probably keep that intact just because. So my intention with this amp was to decide on whether or not I want to use it as it is and just put something in these spots and do like a, so I'll do input here and I'll do my parallel triode thing that I normally do. Dr. Pepper's the best. Always. No, I'm not singing today. No Dr. Pepper jingles. But always original. And 23 flavors that when they hit your lips, it's total bliss. That's mine. Anyway. So yeah, I'll use my parallel triode thing here. A normal long tail pair phase inverter there, like it currently has. And then I'll do 2 gain stages, which is not unlike what it currently has. So I'm also in debates on whether or not I want to just forego those altogether. Maybe just use these outputs here and then put my own series of tubes in this thing, and maybe add a 3rd or a 4th tube to it, just to get some more gain stages out of it. I'm in debates. This power transformer, to my understanding, is a 325-0325. So that being the story, it's going to have a little bit more voltage than most people are probably going to want. I'm just trying to see what kind of grounds we got going on here. So we've got green-white filament center tap. I love how it says green-white, but it's a black wire connected to it. But there is a filament center tap. QC. Let's see. So the standby switch is there. The wire from here is going across from the power switch there. They wire directly into here from the thing, which is a little odd. I would have thought they would have done something a little more classy. So they're going from the power receptacle to the board itself, and then from the board they're running over to the fuse, and then out of the fuse into these wires here, which then go needlessly over this direction into the amp and then back around to the other side instead of going out this way and around. I'm not quite certain why they did that. I would have gone the other way, but whatever. I'm just some dude. It is using 470 ohmers for the screen grids, and they kind of literally laid the output transformer leads right on top of them. That I don't really care for much. It's looking like they use a combination of metal film and or metal oxide, maybe. These gray colored ones are probably metal oxide, which would be like this one that you can see right there. And then they use just regular carbon film for everything else. Nothing wrong with the carbon films. They're not using the high wattage versions of them. These look like the half waters. Not the end of the world. And then they got a bunch of these electrolytics all over the place. I am not super duper impressed, but I'm also not super duper disappointed. Couple things I would have done a little different, but that's just me. So like this red wire here is jumping over to here. I don't know. You have a seriously bad ground problem. Yeah, definitely go through your grounding again. Without a piece of paper, this is going to be kind of hard, but since we're talking about it, let's get some grounding 101s kind of taken care of here. Since we're at it, let me get a piece of paper that has not been written upon. Okay, I got a piece of paper. Let's not destroy anything here yet. So hopefully you can see what we're about to draw. And I'm going to put it in the direction of the amp. So there are a couple different trains of thoughts. I don't like doing the input grounded directly to the chassis, but we're going to say this is your input right here, okay? But in theory, you want to connect this ground, the ground that comes from here, so we're going to call that its ground, right? You want to connect that directly to the cathode ground of your... You're not that dumb. So on your first tube, your first triode, right? I'm going to try to draw this. I'm drawing it as you'd see it in the amp, I'm guessing. So when you turn the amp upside down, this would be the input over here, right? So if we're looking at this amp here, this is the input. So I'm going to try to draw it in that orientation so it kind of makes sense like that. So I'm drawing it in reverse to what I'm used to looking at. But here's your first triode. This is going to be your cathode here. This is your grid. And then this is your plate. And I believe the plate is like a T. Whatever. That's what we're going to make it. So this is your plate. So this is where your 100K is, let's say. We'll just put 100K. All right. That goes there. And then this is going to have generally like a 1.5K. We'll say it's a 1.5K. All right. And then oftentimes around it, it's going to have some other type of, generally, not always, but, you know, a bypass cap. And we'll say it's a 22 UF. I think for what you got going on, that would be what it is. And then this goes to ground, right? You want that ground to go to this point right there with that one. That makes sense, right? You don't want that ground to go anywhere else. It needs to connect directly right there. Now, there's a couple different ways you can do it. Let's say that this is one half of a triode here, and then this is the second one here, okay? So this is 12AX7 side A, so we're just going to call this one A, we're going to call this one B, all right? And then we're going to have all the same stuff here. And then we got our cathode, okay? So the plate's going to come out, it's going to go into the grid, and there's going to be a capacitor in there, et cetera, et cetera. There's going to be a resistor here and a resistor here, right? And then maybe you're going to bypass that or whatever. This is going to go to ground as well. These two grounds right here are part of the same circuit because out of this one, we go through a capacitor. They call them coupling caps for a reason. What you have to imagine is that if this is one tube, think of it as one circuit, even though there's two tubes kind of going on in it. But wherever you have a coupling cap, you want to split it. So we're going to call this block A, right? So we're going to call this block A. And then anything in the second block is going to be B, right? That's just subsequent stages going on. So this A node right here, we're going to call it A node. It might actually be D, C, or E, or whatever the hell it is in your thing, but that's not important. These two tubes are going to connect to the same coupling cap. Same coupling cap in your amp. Now, an ideal way to set up your not coupling cap, I said coupling, decoupling cap. It's for the power node, the DC side of your circuitry, right? So up here, you're going to have a resistor, and then that's going to go into a capacitor, and then this is going to go to ground, all right? So this is coming off your HT right here. And then you got your decoupling cap, and then it goes to ground. This ground here should be the same as that ground there, all right? This is all one circuit right here, one big block, all right? And then you got the other node over here. I know this is ugly. This is my third grade way of doing it, but, right? So this node is feeding these two tubes. These two tubes are going together like that. You want all these grounds to make sure that they come into contact with each other first before they touch any other grounds anywhere else in the amp. One way that you could manage this is to then take this and go to its own lug that goes to ground down there, right? So this would be a lug that is ground. You could do that, or you could do what I do, and all these three kind of go together, like a little local group, if you will, and then they jump over to this group, and then that group jumps over to the next one, and so on and so forth. And then at the end of the group, so when you get to the phase inverter, at the phase inverter, then you could put them all to ground there. You could do that, but you don't want to have a ground that goes there, that attaches to the rest of them, and a ground that goes there. You either ground it there at that point at the chassis and call it a day, or you daisy chain them and then ground it at the end over there. Pick one, do not do both. Triple Studio. A1 future proof. That amp's going to be hard to future proof, man. There's a lot going on in there. Like, this thing here has way too much going on in it for what it is. Way too much going on for what it is. So I know this is ugly, but let's chuck this piece of paper here and kind of rethink of it a little bit. So I'm going to kind of draw it in a normal direction now. So the input will be over here, right? This will be a little bit easier for me to kind of imagine it. But let's say this is your safety here. So this is the ass end over here. This is your safety. So I was saying earlier that you want to imagine this as being the spot where everything goes out of the amp, right? So you want things to flow that direction. The input, there's two ways you can do it. You can either ground right at the input and everything from the power, from the phase inverter forward will ground here and there only, or you have everything come up to this side and then ground only at one point over here. There are a couple different trains of thought on that though, and one of them is that you could do what they call the star ground, which is, you know, imagine a star ground, you got this, I'm just gonna put them in blocks. So that block that we created earlier, that's block 1, this is block 2, this is block 3, and we're gonna call this the 4th block, and we're gonna call this the pi. Now the pi, you generally wanna tie, oh, thank you again. You wanna tie with the PA. So we're gonna call that the power amp, so PA. Power amp. This will usually tie together as one, whatever that power section is. And so these will come together and tie into one point. These ones will tie into their own local points, right? This is A, B, C, whatever, right? So we'll just call them A, B, C. And then you got your pi and your PA. Now what you could do in one way is tie all these to that point, right? You could do that. Or you can just tie this directly to the chassis. So each one will go directly to the chassis, but you want to try to imagine inside the amp. This is your safety ground. That's the exit of the amp. This length should be longer than that length, should be longer than that length, should be longer than that length to this point right here. Does that make sense? So if you drew a line to each of these points, they'd get longer and longer and longer. You're just trying to imagine that this is the thing that you want to be the quietest, therefore you want it to be the furthest away from anything else that makes noise. Because this is where everything gets out of the amp. That's why I don't like grounding at the input. The other way that people will do it is that they will go from, say, the C node here, and they'll tie the C node into the B node into the A node, etc. They'll cascade it down, and then they'll ground it at the input. And then they'll ground this section here, over here where the power section is. They'll ground this whole side on its own thing. And then, of course, the safety ground always has its own ground, period. So those are 3 grounding points inside of this amp. The reason I don't like doing that is if there's noise in here, for whatever reason, and it is somehow capacitively coupled to something in the C node, there's only one way for that noise to get out of that amp. And it's not going that way, it's going that way, towards the input. Not how it exactly works, but from a theoretical standpoint, hypothesizing, whatever you want to call it, I don't like it where noise possibly travels in the direction towards the input. I want the noise to go away from the input. And the only way for it to do that is to have the ground go away from it. Make sense? So you just got to pick one of the 3 kind of multiple ways. But, you know, another way that you could do it, and this is the whole star grounding thing, is you just pick one point here and all of them go to that one point. Again, this one never connects there. It's always on its own over there. You could do that as well. So 3 different ways of doing it. You can ground each of these segments to the chassis independently, just as you see them, kind of like this. You can cascade them down the line all the way over, all right? So this one would go to B, B would go to C, C would go to the pi, PA, slash, and then those would ground down here with the center taps. And then the safety, of course, always on its own. So all the noise goes that direction. Or you could do it the other way where you keep the pi, PA, and center taps on their own little thing over here. And then these guys cascade that direction and ground at the input. Take your poison. Am I American based? Fuck yeah, dude. I'm all about guns, liquor, and, well, wives. Very based. I don't simp. I'm not a simp. As soon as you start showing skin on your freaking channel, I'm out of there. I don't want to have any. I'm not into the freaking harlots, and I don't go for easy. Put it that way. If it's hard, that's the direction I'm going to go. Anyway, there's your quick crash course on grounding. So the reason I don't like doing independent grounds all the way around is because if this node is somehow tied up somewhere and this path length is longer than that one for some reason, you can kind of imagine what I'm trying to say about how noise exits the amp. Whether that's the reality of it, yeah, just because I live in California don't mean nothing. I'm in one of those areas that should have probably turned red, I'm pretty sure. But if you can imagine this path length being longer than that path length, you have a situation where it's possible for this one to cross that one, and you're trying to keep that from happening. And if there's only one way for all that noise to get out of the amp, right? Yeah, it takes a lot of energy to be a legacy builder, that's for sure. But there you go. That's kind of a crash course on grounding. And I can tell you, that's not how they did it in this guy here, but it doesn't matter. So what I think I want to do is try to keep this as intact as I can. And what I will do is decide what I'm going to do from there with it. So it's probably not a bad idea to take a photo of it, so we can always put it back to where we want it. Let's get to the camera. And let's just do a couple of snappy shots just to make sure we don't goof anything up. So we're going to get all nice and tight like in there. We're going to get all nice and tight like in there. I'm just trying to get shots of things that are importante. I think I can extrapolate from that. All right, we're going to call it there. So what do you guys think I should do? Should I try to make it work literally with the holes that I've got? Or should I go ham and start drilling new holes and do it my own little way? Initially, I like doing the parallel triode thing. You can't fit quality preamp cap. No, you cannot. Absolutely cannot. This thing is not really all that quality, to be honest. But here's an example of that safety ground I was talking about that always has to go on its own point. And it's buried down in there. You can kind of see that little green thing down here. Let's see if I can walk and chew bubblegum. See that guy right there? That guy right there? That's the safety ground. That yellow and green wire has its own thing coming off the ground of that goes to the chassis. That is the exit point for all the noise. Yeah, and these things, 450 volt, they are cutting close. My understanding is that this PT in here, this power transformer, is a 329-0329. My math says, let's look at that real quick. All clear. So 329 times 1.4 is 460 volts. Now, I don't know about you, but 460 is more than 450. Now, it could be 325-0325. Let's give them the benefit of the doubt and say it's 325 times 1.4. It's like still 5 volts over. Not wise. Now, while the amp is running, it's probably going to drag that down a little bit, and they might be using a thermistor in here. There's a couple of these little guys right here. They look like they could be thermistors. ICL2, I don't know what that is. It could be a thermistor, and that might be what they're doing to help do two things. One is to drop the voltage a little bit, because depending on the thermistor you use, it will drop the voltage a small amount. Is to gut it. Yeah, no, I'm going to gut it, that's for sure. Them brown stones look good. Brown stones? Which ones are you talking about? Which brown stones? I'm trying to guesstimate here. I don't know. That could be one way that they're doing it, though. And their hope is that probably by the time things come up to voltage or up to wattage or whatever, that the amp will have settled down and pulled the math down. 1.414, yeah. Semi-hard. That's pretty hard. You can't really fight that one too much. Now, they could be using a string of diodes. I see 2 in there. So no, they're not using diodes to drop it either. So each diode that you use in succession with each other will drop about 0.7 of a volt. So if you drop two of them, you drop maybe what, 1.5 volts or something like that between two of them. And then of course 1.5 volts on both sides. You take a 325 and you turn it into 324. So 324, let's just do 324, not 25, times 1.4. And you start getting a little bit closer. You know, we drop 2 more volts, right? You can turn it up, down a bit, keep nice and safe. Yeah, you can, but I don't think they do any regulation in here. Doesn't look like they do, unless that's what these guys are there for. Again, a thermistor can eat 5, maybe 10 volts out of your line supply. And if that's the case, and it's possible that that's what they're doing, because they are coming in to here with something, these could be in there. I don't know for sure. I'm just spitting out the different options and possibilities. They definitely have an MOV in here, a couple of them actually. MOVs are not a bad thing. MOVs are like spikes. Oh, thank you, Offset. I appreciate that. So let's start yanking things out of here. And it sucks because they did glue a couple things, and glue is not going to help me with anything. So I don't like glue. Come on, give it to me. I'm gonna have to be like Andy and just use the freaking thing and just yank it off. There we go. That is, looks like it might be for heaters. Yep, this is heaters. This one goes to that. That's probably the heaters for the... These ones look like they might use the locks. They do. Yeah, it has the locks in these, but they're not the press button style. There's a couple styles where you can use the locks, and if you press on one side or pull on one side, it will allow you to take it out without having to freaking reef on it like I am. Damn it. These are on there pretty good, I'm going to be honest. I'm just trying to get the obvious ones here. If you don't mind. Gimme. I'm trying not to absolutely destroy this thing, because if I do decide to sell it, somebody else could probably utilize it. But these guys here are going to be these gray ones are going to be a challenge because they put that Celastic glue on them. And I don't like glue. Not for that purpose anyway. Ooh, got it. Got it. Let's see here. It might be old enough that it's just breaking naturally too. Might just be lucky in that regard. You can see little chunks of it coming off there. There we go. Come on. There it is. These ones. Oh man, these ones suck. There it is. Okay. There's one of these down in there. And, You'll probably also notice I didn't bother volting the amp. I was playing it earlier. There's most of the time these amps have like a safety thing in them, and when I say safety thing, I mean like a bleeder, and the bleeder will quickly dissipate any voltage that's on them off, out, and to ground, and in which case there's really not too much fear. Even if it were not protected in that regard, it would probably still be not much of an issue. Oh, that one looks like it's hardwired. Why do those look like they're hardwired? And not on a frickin' those bastards. So these three down here, those are not removable. Those are part of the PCB board. So that gray wire is going to have to come with that thing. And if you wouldn't mind coming with me, please. All right, let's get this one. There it is. What is holding this thing down there? Zippy ties. We're going to have to remove some zippy ties. Methinks that separates that. That gets most of these things pretty much cleared away. Just a couple zip ties to cut here. So I can free up the two different halves here. And thus far, we haven't managed to destroy anything. Yay! Probably never work again, though. I think we're going to have to undo that. There we go. That's separated from it now. These ones are soldered in on that side there, so I'm not going to be able to do anything with that. I don't like standbys. Oh, you dirty little fuck. Dirty little... What is that song? Freaking, who is that does that? Korn. You dirty little... It's one of my favorite songs. There we go. Haha! That's how you do that. Okay, let's get these guys off here. Same. Gimme, goo. There it is. Okay. And then there's a couple here. I'm just gonna make my life easy. There it is. And one more here. Might use that one later. The ground. That'd be nice. There it is. I'm using this end here. I like expensive tools, so I have Vessel. I would never use this plastic one to do that, but this one is actually meant for hammering. Oh, brownstones make your tubes last 5 times longer, apparently. I don't know about that. But you might be onto something. I don't know. I don't know what brownstones really are. Do you mean like brimisters? Brimester is basically a thermistor. Brimester is a brand name, just FYI. Which, whatever, it doesn't matter. But I am going to have to cut some more zippy ties. Wires. Oh, hey, there's the LED. Didn't know that was going to come out. Whatever. I don't mind. No, those are going to have to come out on their own. I might have to do more of these than I was hoping to take apart. I was hoping to not have to cut every single zip tie apart, but we may have to, depending on how they did this. So I don't have little jumpers at least. So that's going to be the other fun part of this now too, is figuring out which of these are center taps and or not. So there could be 2 center taps here. I'm quite positive that is... I got an LED later on, I guess. That is the most ridiculous wire for that little LED. Look at that teeny little LED. Teeny little thing. A big old fat... The wire is thicker than the LED itself. That's interesting. But then, for the heater, they use this, like, skinny stuff here. Like, here's the wire to this teeny tiny LED that pulls 0 current whatsoever. Next to this wire down here. Let's see if I can get that up there for you to see. Right? Look at that. So this little wire right here is the one actually pulling the current for the heaters. And it's little things like that that kind of just make me think, like, huh, what the hell were they thinking? Why? I'm going to have to cut these. I'm going to have to cut those. Or leave the... I'm going to leave them in there for now. How's that? Because those go to the this switch here. So maybe what I'll actually do is leave it so it's international. maybe somebody will appreciate that. Might not be me. But but maybe I'll leave it in there for that purpose. And only that purpose. All right, let's get some stuff. I'm not even gonna bother. There it goes. This thing is warped, by the way, like bad. I'll show you when it comes out. Like, I don't know what the tone first my ass. This thing has always been a dark, woolly, like, it's always been very dark, very woolly. Never been super satisfied with it. That makes no sense, right? I'm not crazy. Yeah, please post a comment too. Yeah, or a link or something like that. I appreciate that. I am not aware of those. So let's see here. Got that, and we got this one here. Brownstones. That is, this thing is like, it's all tacoed. It's like literally tacoed like that. I don't quite understand what the hell they were doing. You can kind of see it here. If you look, yeah, you can't really tell. We'll show it later once we get all these other things off. I gotta pull some knobs now. So the way I usually do that is I will put the pick underneath so it hits the thing, and then just twist it back and forth. And that usually allows it to not scratch anything up, but it's being, there it goes. Oh, they glued them on. You mother truckers. There's not even any serrations in there. They literally glued these fucking things on. That is unreal. That's a piece of tape. That's not even glue. They used a piece of tape to pressure fit that thing on. Urgh. I've never taken this amp apart before, so I was unaware of that. That is crock of crap. Yeah, it's pressure fit, and it's a piece of tape over the top. Somebody had to sit there and do that. Unfreaking believable. My apologies. I just don't get it. Little fan. I don't know. This thing needs a lot of things. I'm going to buy one of those freaking pliers. I swear to God. And I used to have something like that. Maybe I do. Yeah, come on. Damn, that freaking thing's on there. There we go. Yeah, pulled the tape off this one. It's just freaking tape. We're like a little freaking bastards. I hate crap like that. Bullshit. It's freaking bullshit. Horse crap. All right. Sorry. Just a little miffed about that. It's not cool. Not worried about those parts falling out. I don't know that I have that size. It's probably metric, but where did I fucking put you? One of these is gonna fit. Did that? Yeah, that fit. Ha! That fits. Okay, there's that. What about this side? What size are they gonna go with here? Something smaller. Something really freaking small. Oh, it's gonna be freaking metric. Freaking metric. Hold on, I gotta go get my metric stuff. It's over here. I did another job recently. Buy a Beamer, they said. It'll be cool, they said. And then you buy the Beamer, and it's like great for a little while, and then it breaks. And when it breaks, you get really upset because there's only two ways to deal with it. You either spend a butt ton of money to fix it at the dealership, the stealership, or you do it yourself, like me. And if you wouldn't mind, thank you. And yeah, let me tell you, I've been having a fun one lately with it. These guys, I don't know how I want to deal with those. It's not that size. Ow. It might be this size. Yes. All right, so the trick to these is you just kind of get it on there and this will move out of the way for you. I know I'm making it look probably a little too easy, but And then you gotta find one of these guys. This is an importante tool right here. So I do the beauty rings on my amps. I don't have one out. It doesn't matter, but that thing is, if you have the slotted like castle style for these, you gotta have that. Although I don't really need to take those ones out, to be honest. I'm gonna take the standby out because I'm not using standby. I don't do standby. I'm not a standby kind of guy. All right, so you're going away. We'll find some other use for this guy some other time. The power switch, I might just put back in. I'm not gonna bother with that thing. I'm just gonna, yeah, fuck it. Fork it. At least they did this right. So they put the, you can't really see it, but see right there, it's got that little tooth. That little tooth is to lock this into place. There's like a little slot right there. You can kind of see that they did right. I'll give them that. That was a nice little touch, if you will. Still doesn't save them from all the other bullshit that they pulled, but whatever. I don't want to lose any of these parts here, so. I think I can pull that guy out now. Should be able to. I already did that, yep. It's starting to fall away. That's free, that's free. The rings of Uranus. Right? Uranus. Alright, so this should just pop right the fuck out. If I'm not mistaken. What is holding you in? That, okay. Ta-da! Ew. A little crusty, but whatever. Seen worse. This is bullshit. I don't like that kind of crap, but... And then you can see here they were grounding it, or at least isolating it there. I've seen worse. As far as PCBs go, I mean, this isn't horrible bad. I still wouldn't want to work on that, but it could be much, much worse. Now this, I just need to undo a couple more things here. And this one should be free as well. I think. I don't see any other hidden screws. There's a set of screws that go in on the top that hold in the sockets. That's what's holding it in currently. All right, so all the small parts are starting to work their way out now. So get those all kind of, man, there's all kinds of like just little things popping out here. It's freaking amazeballs. All right, so they got these screws here holding the top part in. And I think that's where it got bent up, was they have these at different heights or something. Because I'll show you here in a moment what I'm talking about. And somebody got happy with the glue over here. There's a glue shmoo. You can't see it from where you're at. Hold on. We'll get to that in a second. Right there. There's a little chunk of glue. There's nothing underneath there, as best I can tell. Bastards. All right, let's see here. What else might be holding you in? That is going to hold you in. The impedance selector. Ah, that's going to suck later on. I'm going to have to freaking make this impedance selector for work. Somehow. That I'm not going to have fun with. I'm going to put those aside. I'm going to need those. Looks like I'm just going to have to cut it off. Maybe what I'll do is I'll unsolder what is holding it in there. Trying not to reef on it too hard here. Something is doing a job though. Oh, gravity. You motherfucker. Okay. There we go. There's this, but see how it's warped? It's not as bad now that it's been unscrewed, but this thing goes like, it warbles. I don't know what the hell they did to this poor thing, but a thing they did for sure. To give you an idea. Yeah. So, there we go. So I'm going to have to probably, what I'm going to more than likely do, so that red one there is the common, is what I'm guessing. And then these, it might be, yeah, it's probably the common. And then there's the 3 phases, or not 3 phases, but you know what I mean. So I'm gonna probably just unsolder these from here, and I'll find a way to make use of this later, because I think gonna just try to use what's in here. We'll see about that. But there we go. Everything's free. Everybody's free now. Yay. Cool. All right. I don't know if I want to take the transformers out or not. I'm a little disappointed. They didn't even use grommets on this thing here for the tube things. They just put like these heat shrink tubing around them that they didn't even heat shrink. And you can see where when they were tightening up the transformer that they run over the side of the transformer. Lovely stuff. I don't understand why they didn't just use grommets on those. The holes are big enough. I can kind of see why they didn't on this, because the transformer goes over the hole. They didn't even line up the holes quite. Whatever. All right, so the way this works here. Blue and brown, those are our primaries there. Those will come off the tubes. This is our center tap for the output transformer there, okay? Don't ask me how I know, but I just know, okay? And then obviously our black here is our common to the output side of things, and our output side of things we're gonna have to go through on this guy here and figure out. It looks like we might be able to tell. Orange is 16 ohms, green is 8 ohms, and the yellow is 4 ohms. So that guy there, I'm assuming, is going to be our, obviously our ground or something like that. We'll determine that later. Doesn't really matter because we're not using that anyway. So this guy here, there are 2 reds, 2 greens, and 2 blacks. I'm almost positive that these are going to be our center taps. These are going to be our HT, and these are going to be our heaters. Now it looked like 2 heater runs. I don't know how they did it. That's what, not that one, but those little baby wires down there that we were teasing about. These jumped onto something else that went to these. So I'm 99.99% positive that these are going to be our green wires for the heaters, and these are going to be our primaries, or our HT, and then these 2 are going to be the center taps. The way that this is probably working at the moment, I can probably put this back on. I don't know where it goes, but we'll pretend it goes there. I don't think that's where it goes, but we'll figure that out. We've got black, blue, white, and brown. And this red one here is probably, I don't know, we'll have to figure that out. Looks like it went across the way. So they probably should have went with black on this one, but these obviously went like that. I can look at my pictures. They should have broke, maybe they did. Maybe they did. This switch has 2 poles on it, so it looks like they did at least break 2 sides. I'll have to confirm that's a double pull, double throw. A good amp, will break both the line and the neutral. That's the way it should be done, and it's the way it's required in Europe. If you're going to sell these things in Europe, you have to break both the hot and the neutral. And in this case here, it looks like that's what they may have done. So do keep in mind that it's going to go through the switch first, then it's going to go to the power rail, which is what this is here. So this is probably the hot that comes out of here after it gets switched. So the way I'm looking at this now, it probably just takes, the black is probably A hot, and then the brown and the blue are probably A hot, and it probably just combines one of these 2 together to get the 220. It's got 3 different choices, so maybe they wired it up so it's just 1 voltage on one of these, 1 voltage on the other, and 1 voltage, 1 voltage on each of these different wires. And then this is the common that goes out to this power switch. I'll have to confirm that. And then this is the neutral here. So it's actually not a bad idea in terms of design for that aspect of it. It's clever. It's a clever way to do it and make it so it's easy to kind of extrapolate later on. So based on what I can see, that's what's going on here. Is if 117 is in the middle is this black wire. That would be Americano. So black and white is American, right? And then this is the common, so this is what comes out of that switch to go to the power switch. And then it looks like the blue is their 100 volt, which I don't know why anybody would ever run 100 volt, but I guess maybe there are some countries that do. And the brown appears to be what would be the 230 volt. I will confirm that later on, but I will leave that the way it is. So this will probably just go back pretty much as you see it currently, like that. I don't know if this is exactly how it went, but that's more than likely how it's going to go. And then the outputs will go down on the bottom there that actually feed the amp itself. We'll see. Or I should say feeds the remainder of the amp. We'll figure that out later. So yeah, there we go. What I will do is make a new faceplate for these. So I will not use this faceplate here. I will use the holes if possible. There's enough going on here. I think I can utilize the holes. I don't know if my thing will fit that or not. It probably will. These look like they're standard size things. So, but then I'll make a faceplate that goes on that. These things are adjustable enough, it looks like, that if I remove this nut here, if I need the extra depth, I can get this in far enough. Yeah, I got plenty of depth. So if I put a faceplate on this, I got plenty of depth to get this through and put on the booty nuts. So there's that. Ta-da! There's another thing in here that went on the other side. We're going to put that there. There we go. And yay. So there you have it. I managed to make it so this amp does not need to get destroyed. Some of these things here, like these guys with these terminals like this, will probably get cut off ultimately. Because, you know, whatever. These ones I don't mind leaving like that. Mainly because technically you're not supposed to solder the, yeah, the standby nonsense is definitely bullshit. But you're not supposed to solder the power side of things to their componentry. It's supposed to be a mechanical connection. And by mechanical, literally, that means these little spade connectors. It's what it's supposed to be. Not all companies here in America will honor that. I do. And I do break both, like I say, the line and the neutral. The whole standby thing, it's a cool way to test an amp if you don't want to check it with the high voltage on. So it allows you the ability to check and see if the heaters are working. It allows you to check and see if any of your low voltage stuff is doing what it's supposed to do. But it's really not that limiting. Like, if you don't want to test the amp and actually have it function, then you just pull the freaking tube out. If you take the tubes out of the amp, you can do the other tests that you need to do sans, you know, any standby switch. So I don't know. The standby is honestly a death knell for amplifiers just in general. It will cause premature death. And I don't know if I did this or not, but this is a no-name tube. There it is. It's like a made in Russia. This is Sovtech 7025 12AX7WA. And then I've got a JJ, and it just says JJ. Looks a little old. It's been in there for a while. And then there's a China tube. It just says China. I don't know. There's 3 different tubes in this thing. I don't know if I did that or not. I don't know if it came that way. I don't recall changing any of the tubes in it. I mean, the power tubes are the same. These are old 6v6 JJs. And you can see they've been a little warm. Mine don't do that. These have been quite warm, actually, over time. But you can kind of see it's worn off and it's gotten a little bit darker around in the middle. Mine don't do that because I don't run thousands of freaking volts on the damn things. All right, so now we just need to figure out how we want to do the tubies, the tubie section. So let's see what things are going to fit here. I have a couple things over here I can check with. I'm pretty certain. Thought I left them over here. Where did they go? Oh, where did those silly things go? I know I did not hide them from myself. Maybe I put them... I must have put them away. I probably was a good boy and put them away like I was supposed to have. The other day I started cleaning up things a little bit and putting things in their appropriate sockets and stuff like that. Yeah, I think I did put them away. There we go. So let's get one of these and some of these. Click. All right, so I like using this style here. They're usually the bottom mount style though. The problem with the bottom mounts with these pre-done up ones is that, as you can see, the holes are always 10 times bigger than they need to be. So you can't just put them in there. So what you end up having to do is to get the top mount ones. And with the top mount style, which of course I do not have any, I don't have any left. Nope, I do not. No, I do not. But with the top mount style ones, you put them on there and they're just a little bit bigger. And so as you can imagine, they cover up the hole, right? 2 packs for $20 on Amazon. That's not bad. 20 bucks for a pair. That's $10 a piece for molars. That's really good. Flexi is the original, the THD. So THD, those poor guys, they're not in business anymore, and they had some pretty cool stuff. And I have played around on one of the little univalves that he made. Pretty cool little amp, but I can tell you that there's, it's a clever idea. They basically put a JCM 800 type of topology into a class A amp, right? So these guys here, fits like a glove, and you can see the holes are already lined up. So this one will work just like normal down here, and the holes are already lined up. So you can kind of just see where I'm going to want to go with that. So the power tubes are probably going to stay in this orientation right here, and they'll just go just like that. Now, the question is whether or not I want to top mount or bottom mount these. The only reason for doing the top mount is that it hides the hole, as opposed to bottom mount where you can see the hole. But it's a pretty nice hole. It was cut tight enough, close enough that it looks pretty good from the bottom like this. So I think we're definitely going to use this position here for the power tubes. We're still in debates about these 3 positions here for the remainder of them. $40 or $20 a piece. Why you gotta get me all excited like that? I was about to drop you guys like a hot rock and go freaking start buying stuff. I've got enough freaking 12AX7 sitting around. I don't need any more for a while. So I think my plan at the moment is to just go ahead and try to utilize the stuff that's in here. As I mentioned earlier, this is a version 2, I believe. I can't remember. Whatever the revision is. This one has the 470 ohm. And I think there was one that they made that these were like the weak link. $28 a pair or 28 each. Yeah, that's a lot. $28 a piece. I don't know. I don't know about that. Golly, they were just evil to this thing. Poor thing. What a shame. What a pity. Anyway, I'll probably use that as the phase inverter if I can get away with it. What I'll do is I'll get the top mount style ones. I don't like the ones that have the shields that come up. This one I don't believe had shields in it. And then I'll mount them there, and you can just see that these holes are almost, like you can almost get it screwed in where it's at currently. I could probably get away with it by just pinching it in place the way it currently is. Obviously you have to mount it from the bottom to make it work, but I think I could get away with it pinching in place pretty much how it is, but it's not the proper way. You're supposed to have the metal, the thing that it's going in right there. So I'll probably have to get the encapsulated versions. So whatever. We'll get to that point later on. So I've done everything I've wanted to get done today. We've kind of given this thing a little rough once over, and kind of saw what it was about. We didn't really get to hear it that much. You kind of heard it for a brief moment, but let me tell you, it works, but it's not like great. So this particular amp is the biggest waste that they possibly ever could have done. Like, instead of using a tube for the first gain stage, they used this transistor here that I was talking about. And then they went through only one tube for all the rest of the amplification stuff. Then it goes into the next tube, and the next tube was actually for the the effects loop. So this thing has an effects loop in it, had an effects loop in it, and they burned up a tube for that. And then they had the other tube that was, of course, for the phase inverter. So it was just like, why not put one more freaking tube in there and just go full on, or use a solid state transistorized effects loop? I don't know. It's just, to me, it doesn't make much sense. Not the way I would have done it, but anyway, I'm not the one building the damn amps, so screw this guy. They use nice switches, though. These look like they're Carlings. Maybe they're URs or something like that. I don't know, whatever. But let's put all the knobs and stuff back on. And then I will address some of your questions and other things like that, because I have done everything I have aimed to do today. I have to order some parts, more or less is what I'm getting at. I do not have, I have a turret board, and I have parts that I can build this amp with, but I am not prepared today to do that. So we will not be doing that today. This is going to be kind of one of those side projects. So it'll pop in and out here and there as we just kind of do these other things. One of my other projects that I got to do is I need to fast track my 18 watt build. As I mentioned yesterday, I have a friend, a good friend, and he is Paul McCartney's guitar tech, and he wants me to build him an amp. I'm going to build him an 18 watt, and that will be that. And if I get it done soon enough, it's a possibility that it can get in front of Paul McCartney. Now, Paul will never buy it. It is not his style of amp by any stretch of the imagination. So there's no visions of grandeur in that regard. It will just be an amp. That's all. I think what I want to do, I'll put these knobs back on, because I don't think I'm going to be able to reuse these knobs. God, that's so maddening. Yeah, we'll just put them all in the same position, because why the frick not? I cannot believe that. Do you see what I'm talking about? So the knobs, they use a piece of tape that maybe was like double-sided sticky or something on it, and the knob doesn't have any knurling in it or anything. It's literally a press fit. Like, are you kidding me? Urgh. I hate stuff like that. Brian Ray is gay, and his face has facelifts. Who's Brian Ray? I don't actually know who Brian Ray is. I can't say I get the joke. Fill me in, John. Fill me in, please. Because I'm in the dark over here. I don't know. Doo-doo. All right. This thing is... Later on, what we can do is either sell this or give it to somebody that needs a working, an amp that works. Because this is all functional here. So I need to find a place to stash it in the meantime. There we go. It's a good enough spot. Good a spot as any. And then I'll put this switch somewhere else. These guys I want to hold on to, because those go to the back, if I'm not mistaken. Can't remember where those went to, actually. All right, and these guys here, I don't think I need to save. I'm not going to throw them away, though. Where do I want to put these guys? I'm going to put them in here. There we go. They're going to float around in a drawer, and I'll put this with the remainder of it. There we go. I'll zip tie that all back together later on. So these need to get put back away. So this is what I do here. I have like these little things here that I keep my stuff in. So this is how I kind of organize some of my stuff. You can see these are what I use for my prototypes. I like using the true ones, the Neutrik true ones. So I use those, and I just kind of keep some of these loose parts in here. Little shit like this. Rando knobs that I can't use anymore. So see, I use these style. So I have similar styles of those knobs, but these are the ones with the set screws in them, so they don't fall off, right? Because it's kind of cool when knobs don't fly off. you know, I try to use the high quality shit, you know, with brass inserts and stuff like these ones here. I try to use the best I can. And then, you know, nice Marshall style knobs. I'm not a huge fan of Marshall knobs. I don't like the Marshall knobs. I need to order some more of these. I got maybe enough to do one more amp with that. I got all my different fuses and stuff, all my different standoffs that I use. And then I just, for whatever reason, put the diodes in here. I've got like a stack of half a dozen of these things. And I do stuff like this. So this is my little capacitor box, if you will. So you can kind of see I keep a pretty decent stock of all the different sizing and stuff like that. And we're going mostly all to 47 UF from now on for things. So because I like using the 5AR4, GZ34 or whatnot, 47 UF will work with them. So you can see I've got like a pretty good selection of 47 UF here, and then 22 UF for all the others. I like using 22 UF for the preamp stages. It's not overkill, but it's not, you know, it's not weak sauce either. And then, of course, I keep all my resistors and whatnot. I use the metal film, the Del Vichys and stuff. You can see there's a couple values I need to restock on, but these are about $1 a piece right here. About $1 a piece, and I got 2 boxes full of these things. So that's what I do. Almost 2 boxes full of them. Here's my other box. So this one here, I have some of my specialty resistors, but you know, I fill out the rest of my collection. And then these things here, these things are about 10 bucks a pop. These are the nice Ohmite ones in 5 and 10 watt. And then those are my screen grid resistors. And then I just got a couple pairs of tubes that I leave sitting around. So there you have it. It's kind of like a little tour of what I got going on. That's how I do what I do. All right. Any questions? There's only 3 of you here, so there's really not a whole lot. I didn't anticipate this being a hell of a show today. And I would be correct, because it's only gotten 68 views, whereas yesterday about this time I had like 100 and something. Screw you guys, I see how you are. You just don't love me. I give you gold, and this is what you do to me? No, this is fun to do. I'm glad I'm able to do it. So, all right, there you have it. That's my day. I'm going to call it now. I wanted to keep those. I need to keep these. So I'm going to put these in a different spot because we want to keep these. I'm going to put them here in that position. There. Those will be ready for me later in the future. Sorry, I like keeping things pretty clean as well. So when you watch me do this thing live, you're going to see me consistently put things away as I'm done using them. And you'll also see me do things like this where I clean my space. I'm all about having a clean space. I like clean spaces. There we go. All right. So, how's that? Any questions? Ray or May? Brian May? Ray. Brian Ray. Who is... Oh, no, not his guitar player, his guitar tech. So he has a tech for his tour that he's on right now. So I don't know if you know, but Paul McCartney is doing a tour right now. He just started a few weeks ago. And my friend is doing the guitar tech for Paul McCartney, possibly Brian Ray as well. I don't know who all's in the project, to be honest, but I know he's got a bunch of backup singers and stuff like that. And he's got a hell of a freaking security crew, too. The first show was quite serious. They did their first show to kick the whole tour off here in my hometown area of Santa Barbara, where they did a thing at the Bowl, Santa Barbara Bowl there, and they were quite tight on the security. Apparently not tight enough because picture still did manage to get out somehow, but you know, is what it is. I guess I'm going to put this right there because why not? All right, there we have it. This goes away. Whew. We are there. We're done. Yay. I'll just set this over here because why not? There we go. A little eye candy. Good work. Thank you. We can call it a day now. I think I've done all I need to do. It's been 2.5 hours. Darn, I'm kind of actually impressed. A letter to Brian Ray about your amp, and I don't know if it's going to make it to the stage. Here's the reason why. I don't know if it's a world tour. Actually, I know it's a world tour, so there's no question about that. That's not the problem. They are not going to change things mid-tour for that. Historically, when a band gets set up to do that kind of stuff, I mean, they spend a year and a half in rehearsals. It's a cool area to live. It's expensive as all get go, but they spend a year or so or more doing rehearsals. So these guys have spent a long time dialing in what's going to be on the stage, how that layout's going to work. The production team all knows where all that stuff is going to be. They've already advanced a lot of these venues that they're going to be at, so they're probably not flying with the amps, right? They're going to have the amps available to them there when they get there, but I don't think it's going to fly with them. And even if it does, they're going to want multiples of these things. Now, I don't know if you know, Paul McCartney has like a wall of AC50s. I'm pretty sure that's what they are, AC50s anyway. I think that's what they are. But there's like 5 or 6 of these damn things. Now, whether they're all on or not, I don't know. But in either case, you know what I mean? Like in the back truck, there's probably another 2 or 3 or 4 or more ready to go. Well, same for Brian Ray or whoever the other guitarist is. His rig is going to be a Fender Deluxe or whatever amp that he decides to use, and it's going to be that for the whole tour. They're not going to change it mid-set or mid-tour. Now, the other problem is, obviously Paul McCartney is probably sponsored or has some sort of partnership with Vox. So even if, let's say, either of them wanted to buy the amp, they're not going to put it on the stage because they have their licensing agreements and all this other, crap that goes on, right? And it's going to require them to have XYZ amp on that stage when they play. Now, what they do in the studio and what they do at home and on their side gigs when they're not doing the tour and stuff, totally different story, maybe a totally different case, but the odds of me getting it into that guy's hands and having him be so overwhelmed or overwowed by it and, it ending up on the stage during the concert, not a chance in hell. So that is not a preconceived notion that I have. Now, would be amazeballs if he was like, yeah, I want one, get me one. And, the order goes through and then I can say he's, on that list of, people that own a legacy amp. We'll see about that when the time comes. I don't know that that's going to happen, but if it does, that's great. That's not what I'm counting on though. So, no preconceived notions. Now, for my friend whose name is Hector, I'm just happy that he wants one and I'm happy to build him one and, work with him on that. So, what he does with it, I don't know. He does play in bands on occasion. Obviously, he's touring the world right now, so he doesn't have time to play. But he is a good person to know who can obviously tip someone off to being like, hey, man, I got this freaking amp you got to check out. So, yes, there is that hope there. Don't get me wrong. There is still that dream and desire for that to happen, but he might be quite literally the closest thing I have to being that guy that can, that I've talked about before, where you have to know somebody, right? You just have to know somebody. He right there is the closest person I have to that possibility. So as you can imagine, I do want to make a hell of an 18-watt for him. The reason I like the 18-watt so much, it's still my flagship amp. I've got all these other designs. They're really freaking cool, and they all do a thing. But that 18-watt, there's just something about it. It's the one I spent the most time getting to where it is. And you look at it, and it's super duper simple. There's nothing to it. Let me get one over here. Damn, everything's freaking buried right now. Hold on, let me work this out. I gotta do things. I gotta do things. Never mind me. Never mind me. I'm just Luke being Luke. So, and I'm gonna have to pull the tubes. So we're gonna take these out because they won't fit. They won't fit setting this thing upside down. So this one uses a GZ or an EZ81 for the rectifier. And then it uses these guys here for obviously the power tubes. These are EL84s. So you can see, this is my 18 watt design. This is one of my prototypes. This one has what I call the flux capacitor in it. So I was trying a couple different things to manage some of the 18 watt fizz that happens. This is obviously a chassis that I will never sell an amp in, but this was just to make it so I could figure out the layout and figure out how everything was going to get wired together, etc., etc. But this is what the circuit really is right here. That's as simple as it is. This right there is basically like a volume control, more or less. It just kind of knocks a little bit of the top off. It helps balance it out a little bit. And then the diode that goes over the top of the bias resistor is obviously there to manage and mitigate bias drift. So this just doesn't have that fizz thing that goes on. So there's not much to it. There's my parallel triode over there. You can just see it's got the crissy-crossy wires to connect all the grids and stuff together, and the plates and the cathodes. I was using the 2 watt metal oxides at this point in time. I've since gone over to the Vichys, which are the brown colored ones. This particular one uses the Dale Vichy metal film resistors in there, the ones that are about $1 a piece. I have another one behind me. It's in an enclosure, if you will. And that one, I did put the play mute on these two. I'm never putting this in again. Nobody uses them. I put a play mute switch in there because, you know, I think people were kind of stuck on the whole idea of having a standby switch. And every time I've handed the amp off, they turn the amp on and they never bother with this switch. So, you know, it's a bunch of time and energy to put that thing in there. So I don't use it. This amp, the reason it works so well, I think, and the reason why it's just well balanced all the way around. But what's really, really cool about it is that you can actually get the power tubes to break up before the phase inverter breaks up. And because you can get the power section to actually break up first, you can actually get this thing to blend kind of where that distortion starts to come in at. So there is no intermediate gain stages here. This parallel triode, this is a parallel triode right here. This is the phase inverter here, and that's where the power tubes go. All right, so these are the power tubes. So this tube here, parallel together, goes straight into this guy, just via a volume knob. So that volume knob right there. So you set the volume that goes into the phase inverter, and then this is the master volume. Now the master volume is between the phase inverter and the power tubes. So you can play with these knobs and either get phase inverter distortion, or if you want, you turn the master volume all the way up and you can actually get the power tubes to distort before the phase inverter does. And then I use my own little low cut circuit. And then the high cut on here is essentially like the high cut in a Vox. You know, it just shunts across the pi and darkens it up a bit. Works really, really well. So very, very simple. And if you kind of look, you'll notice grounding wise, everything comes to that point right there. So there's a wire that's down underneath there. That is going to the speaker jack over here. Actually, well, yeah, speaker jack is right there. So that's where the grounds come in. You'll notice there's two of them there. There's two of them because one of them comes from the output transformer and goes directly to the jack. You should always do that. So make sure that when you wire your output transformer is common, it goes straight to the speaker jack, always to the speaker jack first, and then it goes from there to your grounding point. That is my ground point for everything in this amp. So the center taps are coming in, and then all of my stuff cascades. So we're talking about grounding earlier. Thank you. I appreciate the compliments. We were talking about grounding earlier. So let me get a pen so it's a little bit easier to point this stuff out. But this is the cathode right here of my first stage. You'll notice that this, which is the ground, get that so you can actually see it. So that wire, that black wire there, goes straight to that cathode right there. That is the input right there. Its ground goes straight to that cathode. That goes to this cap right here, and you'll see this cap is this tube's power supply. Makes sense? So it's generally best to have these next to the node that they're going to be powering, as opposed to all stacked over on one side and then running wires all over the place. It's actually quieter if you do it like this and have the node built right next to where it's, you know, what it's powering. So this is all one section right here, and you can see there's quite a bit of space in there. Having space between your nodes is also a nice thing. So this ties to that, and then this will tie to this, and then this ties to this network here, and then it goes, of course, here and then out. All right, so all the noise has only one place to get out of the amp, and that's to here, and then it goes to the safety ground that's down there. You can just kind of see it down there, right? So that's the concept that I use on this. This amp is extremely quiet, extremely fun to play, very dynamic. I didn't even bother cleaning this one up. Like, I still got some blobs on in here. So this again, this is a prototype. So there's a lot of different things that have come in and out of this amp. So it's not the best work I've ever done. As I mentioned, I didn't even clean up a lot of the globules that get tied in there because things were just coming in and out. In the future, I don't know with an EZ81 that I could get away with a 47 UF. Technically speaking, an EZ81 you can use up to 50 UF. 47 UF is cutting it pretty close. So I've been using 30-30. I'm going to use 47s in the power section pretty much as often as I can get away with it. I may go to a GZ34 AR 5AR4 for this amp build. For just a little bit stouter voltage. It's pretty good where it's at. I'm running at about 325 plate volts, which is to say that if you measure right there on this particular amp, it's 325 volts. With a 5AR4 GZ34 rectifier, I'll probably end up with like 335 to 340 volts. That's where a lot of people really like it. I don't really like it that high, but I don't know. It's one of those things where everybody's kind of got their own little flavor. I don't like running them that hot. Again, kind of my thing is running a slightly lower than is common voltage, and then, you know, using a more appropriate output transformer for that lower voltage. Now, in this case here, I'm using standard stuff that you can get off the shelf. And this is the most horrendous looking freaking transformer I've ever purchased in my entire life. This is a Hammond. Sounds great. There's absolutely nothing wrong with this transformer. It just looks like absolute freaking hell. Their power transformers look fine because the parts that you can actually see are really nice and clean, but they paint their wires. So the wires gets this black paint that they put on everything, much like this guy here and the black paint that's all over it. And it gets all over the wires. It looks disgusting. It looks hellacious, and I don't like it. So I have since moved to Hayboer for my transformers for this thing. Sorry, Hammond, you didn't answer my replies or my queries in the way that I was hoping for. I hit Hammond up and asked them if they could make it without the freaking black paint all over these things, and they said that, I don't know if they were just being lazy, didn't care, or just thought I was some punter, but they're like, no, that's part of our varnishing or potting process, and we will not warranty anything that we don't pot. So if you want it potted, which you have to have it potted, then you have to get this black Celastic crap all over it. And I'm like, no, I don't think I think you misunderstood me, but whatever. We are where we are with that now. So I've since gone to Hayboer. The power transformers don't look quite as nice on the outside as the Hammonds do. I might stick with the Hammond power transformers, and we'll see how that goes. The nice thing is that while the outside of the Hayboers look a little more hideous. The inside is a little bit nicer looking. It has a nice brown paper bobbin that you can see, and it looks a little bit nicer, a little bit cleaner, but the outside is just not as pretty. Same with their power or output transformers. It doesn't look like this. I like the end bells, so I get the one with the end bells, but it unfortunately, the way that they do it, the varnish that they put on there kind of globs around it. I'll show you exactly what I mean. With this guy right here, you can kind of see it's got like the yellowish hue, and there's like, it looks like runs and stuff like that. Well, that's, imagine a black thing like this with this yellowish hue of thick, gooey runs all over it, and then, you know, things like that where they laid it on top of something before it completely dried and then peeled it off and all that jazz. Not very attractive looking. Mercury Magnetics is the only company that kind of doesn't do that and make them look so hideous. These are also hay mowers, and you can just see again that glob that comes up. These ones are not as bad looking. You know, these ones are actually pretty clean, but they're just not as pretty all the way around, which is a bummer. I'm picky about crap like that. But the Mercury Magnetics stuff is extremely expensive. It's almost 2, if not 3 times the price of whatever this is. So this is a $100 transformer. Theirs is going to be, you know, 280, if not 300 bucks. It's like a stab in the heart. And yeah, they look the part. They look really nice, but I don't think their quality is, you know, like the sound quality, that extra 0.1% is there. I don't see it being there. And most of the people that I've talked to that have used them in their builds or in general kind of have the same feeling about them. Do they sound different? Yeah, everything's going to sound different. If you put 10 different transformer sets in your amp, you're going to have 10 different sounds. How markedly different are they going to be? I don't think you're going to have a spread that you could say this is a 1 and this is a 10. And then you could clearly define, you know, this is a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I think you're going to find that, yeah, there's going to be one that's evidently not that good. Yeah, right. Dip them in organic beeswax for shizzle from a freaking monastery that's up in the freaking Alps or something. You might have one in that group of 10 that is obviously a 1, but I think you'll find that there's maybe one that you can say is a 10, but that the difference between it and the next 3 down are going to be so close that you have to nitpick your way to that decision. It's not going to be so clear cut that it's just like, that's the one. And everything else is going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Like, no way. Not going to happen. So, in either case, let me get tidied up a little bit. We're done with that. And let me put this away. So I got like a little cover that goes on it. That's what's going on, more or less. So, got a couple different, these guys too. This guy actually has an oscilloscope in it. And you can, yeah, this thing is cool. So you can actually see what's going on. I don't use that one as much anymore. I don't know what it is. This little guy, this little Velman right here. I've had this thing for like 20 years. I've gone through like 2 or 3 sets of these probes for it. This thing is just Mr. Reliable. The 9-volt battery in it lasts like a year for me. It's perfect. And it just, I use 3 settings on the damn thing. 600, 600, the beep, beep, beep. And then, you know, if I can't read the freaking, the bands, I'm getting to that point where I need glasses. I'll use this guy and cheat. You must have one of those around though. You gotta have a nice trusty voltmeter at all times. Like that's just a gimme. But I think we've kind of reached the end. We're coming up on 3 hours. I do need to put these back on that guy, but I'll put them away for now. I got like a little drawer here. I'm gonna keep all my tubies. So I will start coming up with a plan with this. I will start acquiring parts. I do have a couple of little turret boards for it. I got like one there that I started a project with and didn't end up using it, but I've got a couple of these. These are probably going to be for the 18 watt and my larger 50 watter that I'm going to build. I do have enough transformer sets to do one other build on top of that as well. You saw one of my 35 watts there, that black output transformer that I showed. That one will be for another build. I also have another transformer that I can use that will work for a 6v6, another 6v6 style amp. I'm not trying to have a plethora of 6v6 amps. So, sorry, excuse me. Objectively speaking, I'm going to have like kind of a 6v6 version of a couple of my EL84 designs. I do have a Fender Champ style amp. That one's fun. That one's cool. No problem there. But my I have like a 30 watt, this 30 watter here we showed yesterday, I think. Pretty sure we did. But like I'll basically come up with a 30 watter version or a 40 watt version of a 6v6 amp. And I will have also a oh, thank you. I was wondering where you went. So I'll create basically like a 30 watt version of this, perhaps. I kind of am trying to get away from what I'm calling my OSD series of amps, which is output section distortion. This one here, I may put an effects loop in, but I kind of want to make it a gain banger. And when I say gain banger, I mean like JCM 800 territory, maybe a little bit more, like a little bit stouter than that, a little more saturation, a little more sustain than like a JCM 800. But as you can see, I don't have like a butt ton of space to be putting a bunch of tubes in there, and I do like using my parallel triode thing. So that makes it challenging. So I don't know. I'm going to either have to stuff another tube in here or just limit myself down to something a little more simple. Maybe I'll turn this into a more train wreck style thing where I just use 2 gain stages or something more like that. But we'll see. I'll come up with those plans and I'll keep you kind of in that loop. But I think I'm going to call it. You guys, thank you so much for hanging out with me. I appreciate you so very much for your time and your input. And thank you for the donations and stuff like that. Remember, every penny counts. Daddy's got to go to Sweden. But take care, you guys. I will see you in the next one. I may do another one this week. Maybe on Saturday. We'll see. I have another chassis that's supposed to arrive tomorrow. But I don't have the rest. Bukake. I do not have the rest of the stuff. I'm waiting on those transformers. So I ordered a set of transformers from APD, All Parts Direct or something like that, or Amp Parts Direct, excuse me. And they didn't have the version of output transformer that I wanted. And they hit me up the next day and they said, hey, we don't have this. We'll get back to you soon once we know a little bit more. That was a week and a half, almost 2 weeks ago. So I really kind of want to get in touch with them and find out what's up with my transformers, because my chassis is going to get here a little bit earlier than I thought it would. I was expecting another week on that. So I hope you guys enjoyed this. Thank you. And we'll see you on the next one. Take care. Goodbye.